Dear Mr. Tsomokos, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister Mikhailovich, Israeli investors, professionals, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, our embassy is very happy to support once again the Property and Infrastructure Conference that is taking place today. And I would like first of all to thank Mr. Tsomokos and his team for the wonderful cooperation. Israel is well known mostly in its innovation sector, and one can ask, what does Israel has to do with construction and property? So let me first start with some details and data and figures about the Israeli economy in order to understand where the construction sector exists or is in the Israeli economy. So first of all, the GDP per capita in Israel is around $40,000. Inflation today is 0.3. Unemployment in Israel is 4.2%, and public debt is 59%. So all these can be considered as important achievements, I think, for any country. When it comes to Israel, I think we can always talk about big success, not only important achievements. And this is for two reasons. First of all, because of the geopolitical, very specific geopolitical situation in which Israel lives. And secondly, in comparison to 1985, right before the economic restructure, you see in 30 years what happened to the Israeli economy. So Israel today is considered as technology-driven, services export-oriented economy, with 45% of its export is for high-tech. Our trading partners are Europe, Asia, and America, 1/3 of each about. What about the construction sector, and where is it? So construction sector in Israel is affected, as any construction sector, by forces, external and internal forces, demands, crisis, credit rates, and so on. But there is something very specific to Israel that I'm not sure exists in any other country and affects a lot the sector of construction in Israel. And this is the Israeli population. The uniqueness of the Israeli population is the growth. And this growth is thanks to two factors. One factor is the immigration to Israel, and the second, more stable, is the high natality. In 1948, we are now celebrating 70 years of establishment. In 1948, there were in Israel less than 1 million inhabitants. Today, we have 8.5 million. This is an enormous growth, and then I said this is thanks to two factors. One would be the immigration, and the second is the natality. When we talk about natality in Israel, Israel's annual population growth is about 2%. It's more than 3 times faster than other OECD average, which is around 0.6%. The average in Israel is about 3 children per woman, which is, in comparison to OECD, 1.7 is about the double. But maybe more important for the construction sector in Israel is the question of immigration. Israel is a country of immigrants, and it knew several peaks in its immigration. The first one was exactly when it was established 70 years ago, from 48 to 54, and the second when most of the Jews from Arab countries and Muslim countries were expelled or escaped and came to Israel. And of course, Holocaust survivors from Europe also came to Israel. The second peak was in the 90s, after this disintegration of the Soviet Union, where in a period of about 5 years, almost 1 million immigrants came to Israel. And this is, of course, a huge challenge for the construction in Israel. But more than a huge challenge, I would say that this is the driving force of the construction sector in Israel. In a sense, I would say, and I don't think I exaggerate, I would say that construction is part of our national ethos. When it comes to the strength of Israel, of talking about Israeli economy, we can talk about innovation, we can talk about everything. But something that is considered as national ethos would be mostly probably construction and maybe agriculture also in a way. because you have this idea of immigration country, of demographic question. You have a question of being surrounded by countries or by enemies that do not recognize your existence. And their message is go back to your countries where you came from. And our message is that we have been here for more than 2,000 years, which means that it's a kind of statement. And there are lots of songs and lots of culture around this idea of building the nation from nothing, building in the physical sense of the word. So we are talking about a national ethos. And of course, what it means as well, especially when it comes to immigration and growth, is involvement of the government, or how the government should encourage the private sector in order to be able to meet this growth and these growing demands. So at first, in the first years of our existence, at first, almost all construction was a result of government initiative and investment. Only from 1984, the numbers have started to reduce from 67 up to 16% in 1989. As I said, in the beginning of the 90s, we see a growing demand, a boom of immigration to Israel, and the demand rose temporarily, and the government had to be more involved and engaged in order to meet the fast rising demand created by this sudden influx of hundreds of thousands of immigrants. In the last few years, what we see in the Israeli construction sector is mostly general rise in the standard of living, important rise in standard of living in Israel, coming with immigration from relatively rich countries or very rich countries like the US, and especially from France and Belgium and European countries, and a growing interest of foreign investors in Israeli property, which means that it provoked a rapid increase not only in construction, but also in the most expensive class of apartments in Israel, especially in highly demanded cities like Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, etc. Due to that, in 2011, Israel experienced social protests. Tens of thousands of youngsters, especially youngsters, went on the street of Israel, especially in the city of Tel Aviv, asking the government to intervene in order to moderate the prices of accommodation. It was a huge event in Israel. You can imagine the main road of Tel Aviv with tens of thousands, not only protesters, but tents, and people living in tents for weeks and weeks, until the government took responsibility and was more engaged in trying to moderate the price growth and encourage construction, and especially in peripheral zones and for young couples. Today, and I heard from the minister the number here, it's very similar. The construction is about 6% of the GDP. It used to be much bigger in the past. And as you can imagine, I would not enter into details. You can imagine that during a time of high immigration to Israel, mostly is residentials, and when there is less immigration and less demand, in this case there is less residentials and more commercials and offices. Let me say something about investments of Israeli companies here. As you know, Israeli real estate companies here became, over the years, the flagship of the Israeli investments here in Serbia, with more than 1 billion euro invested since 2000. During the world crisis of 2008-2009, most of the Israeli companies preferred to stay here. Very few left. And I think that from the beginning they believed in the potential of Serbia, and they believed in the economic recovery of Serbia. And now what we see is a kind of increasing activity of the Israeli investors here. The numbers that you see are all from public sources. What you see in black, these are projects that have been delivered long time ago. Those in blue have been delivered this year, and those in red are initial phases and under construction. What is the direction that the Israeli companies, construction companies are taking? In the beginning, they were pioneers in what we call the office parks concept. They were followed by retail parks and malls. And today, they are mostly concentrated in residentials, and of course, all kind of mixtures of residentials and office and commerce, etc. Why are they here? As I said, they started to be here since 2000 because they believed in the market. And they stayed here during time of crisis up to now, and now they are increasing their activities here. They are here because, as the minister said, we do believe that good things are happening here. And Serbia is very appealing for foreign investors, especially in real estate, and not only in real estate. And this is, of course, thanks to the economic stability and the political stability that we see here, the very positive macroeconomic indicators, and the prospects for growth in the future. When it comes specifically to the question of construction, so Serbia holds the 10th position in the world of issuance of construction permits, according to Doing Business 2017 report. So this reform of the e-permits, as well as the question of cadastre that we are waiting, the continuation of the reforms, especially in the one in the cadastre, as well as the improving predictability in general, I believe that would provide an additional boost to real estate developers here. What are the embassy's activities when it comes to facilitating and easing the work of the investors here in general and in particular in terms of construction? So first of all, we are here to create and to help to build favorable political environment. As you know, they are interconnected. Political relations and economic relations are interconnected. So first of all, it is important to create here favorable political environment. Secondly is to provide the businessmen with bilateral agreements. In this sense, we have made a lot, but I would say that a lot should be done. There are several general agreements like protection of investments. We are about to sign very soon, I hope, the avoidance of double taxation. Yet a lot of other agreements should be signed, but I think that we are on the right track. The third point is, of course, the networking and business matching. I would say that our job is relatively easy because what we find is a kind of similar mentality, similar way of thinking between Israel and Serbia, and this, of course, makes the networking much easier. We are here also to provide updated information for Israeli companies who want to come invest or to export here to Serbia, and of course, we are organizing and supporting all kinds of events as this kind. Having said that, our job is to facilitate. Your job is to take the decision. So we are here in order to help you to take the right decisions. Thank you.